Hello and welcome to the AVRUM ROSENSWEIG show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is indeed AVRUM ROSENSWEIG, and I'm delighted to be here. Before the show, I always like to talk about what sort of inspiration you can look for through my interviews and through this one specifically. I'll introduce my guest in one moment, but suffice it to say that Ken Gangbar is an artist and he's a religious Jew. So there's a very interesting juxtaposition there. And both of those take a lot of work, a lot of creativity, a lot of insight. I think the thing that I'm looking forward to in this interview and why I asked Ken to be a guest on my show is to see what it takes to go down a spiritual path that not only includes one's closeness to God and the development of the relationship with God, but how art fits into that. There are so many juxtaposing things that we have in life. And it's very, very interesting to see and to talk about how those dynamics come together and what we can see in our own lives that almost might be contradictory sometime, but we work towards decompartmentalizing, bringing aspects of our life together in a way that makes sense to us. So if that makes sense to you, here we go. I want to introduce my guest. Welcome, Ken. How are you?
Appreciate it. Baruch Hashem, I'm really well. Thank you.
It's lovely
Great
to
to
have
be
you.
with you. Great to be with you.
Great to have you. Great to have you. Ken Gangbar, a Toronto-born artist, channels a riveting creative journey into sculptural masterpieces that captivate and inspire. Now, based in a studio house with a repurposed bread factory, Ken transforms this unique space into a hub of artistic innovation, turning the everyday into the extraordinary. Ken's path to becoming an independent professional artist has been remarkably diverse. His past includes roles in sales, home renovations, mentoring young offenders, leading wilderness canoe expeditions, and working as a personal attendant care worker. Each experience has enriched his perspective, infusing his art with depth and authenticity. Initially focused on contemporary functional tableware, I love that. Ken has since evolved to create captivating sculptural and installation art that resonates with viewers. Rooted in his Jewish heritage, his work weaves together cultural and personal narratives, inviting reflection and connection. Join us as we dive into Ken's inspiring journey, including his transformation into what we call a Frum Jew, a halachic Jew, a religious Jew. He's a man on a journey, and what else can we ask from ourselves throughout our lives? Do you think that is appropriate? Do you think that's right? You're on a journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even before I knew it, but yeah, absolutely a huge journey, especially in the last couple of years. But life as a whole, I mean, yeah, it's definitely a journey full of turbulence and beauty, um, and the past couple of years have been really intense, but amazing.
Why the last couple of years?
Well, the last couple of years, my mother passed away just before then, and that was, quite profound, her death, and then not long after was October 7th, which was a huge shake up for me, searching, wanting to connect more meaningfully and understand from different perspectives, and it led me, really was a calling towards connecting to my Jewish roots, to Yiddishkeit, to learning, to observing, to growing. It's like it was there all along for me, waiting, and it wasn't because of my mother's death and because of the war, but those definitely were conduits for for making some significant choices and changes and growth.
What was your mom like?
She was from Brooklyn, so half my family's in the States. I have dual citizenship. My mother was lovely. She was the youngest of three sisters. She was really gentle and kind. She was compassionate. I mean, I really relate to her. I was the youngest of three. I have two older sisters from both my parents, and then a couple of other siblings from later marriages. But as the youngest of the three of us, and really at some point in my adulthood, realized that as a youngest of three, and she was the youngest of three, we had a lot in common. And so, really, she was very intuitive around her emotional side, and she really connected and cared about people's well-being and their emotional health. She reached out to the less fortunate. She was very modest. She was very loving. She also had struggles and challenges in her life, that she had to work through and rise above, and she did that, and in difficult circumstances. So, whether it was from her childhood or from her adult life, she had experiences that really challenged her. So I think it put her in a place where she could really, connect to people's own struggles in their lives, and certainly she was able to relate to me and connect to me that way, and my sisters. So she's lovely.
Can you tell us about one of her struggles?
I think, growing up in Brooklyn at the time she grew up, and her, it was difficult. I think that she, if I remember correctly, my grandmother, her mother, wasn't well, and that posed some real challenges in the family. My grandmother I knew and I loved and I cared for deeply. Nonetheless, she did have some physical health issues, from what I understand, and it meant that the family made adjustments. My oldest aunt put herself in the role of really helping to raise my mother and the oldest sister. So I think that set of circumstances and much more than that was I think it was difficult. And later on, having the three of us, getting married, moving to Canada. She called Toronto very provincial when she moved to Toronto from Brooklyn. So it was interesting because I think she always felt to some degree as a bit of an outsider. Yeah. She wasn't from the Toronto Jewish community. She wasn't from Toronto. And so I think that she had some traits, some personality, some character that was, that was from elsewhere. It was really amazing. So, but she, moved here, raised a family. My father and her split up I guess I was about 7 or 8. And so I think that the family circumstance, it posed some real challenges, being a single mother, having to, be responsible for her kids and the home and raise the family, all the while, like so many others experience, having to prioritize other things like her children, and at the same time how to heal her own wounds. And I think that she did the best she could. She was an amazing mother. With her challenges, she in a way was a bit of a survivor, but she thrived and she did really well through that. And I think that's what I mean by having her own challenges. I think some of the familial situations growing up and some of those, as an adult and going through, marital issues and then a divorce and being a single mother.
What was it like for you at 7 years old when your parents split up?
It had huge impact. It really was. It was massive. It was a nuclear bomb that went off. Everyone had to sort of scatter and keep their head down, figure out how to survive in a way. It 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 had really profound impacts in terms of um, uh, creating my internal world, which was a sense that things fell apart, things the places that were to be sacred and to be um, unconditional became sort of war zones and battlefields and a lot of collateral damage. And as a child, um, uh, only understanding so much, it had a profound impact on my understanding of relationships, my understanding of family, my sense of responsibility, sense of fear, sense of these things took some big hits, and it's not an exaggeration to say that it was a battlefield, because it really was in many ways. And I think everyone involved had their own place and role to play, and had in their own way, what to rise above, what to find help they needed, or healing they needed, or whatever, which took a while. Takes a while to.
Did your dad stay in the game?
Yeah, my father. I was the youngest of three, so I spent more time through the divorce arrangement. Yeah, there's very formal arrangements in terms of time and schedules. Yeah, so I certainly had a relationship with my father ongoingly. I mean, he's in Toronto. We're close now. He, it was, I saw a lot of him, but he, had other family that he, there were different chapters, different layers. He remarried, and there was a couple of step siblings I had through that marriage, and so both of my parents remarried. They both remarried twice, and yeah, so he definitely was in the picture. But ongoingly, there were some significant challenges in terms of the relationships, and in terms of coping, and in terms of being a child into an adolescent, into a young adult, and then adulthood. It posed some real big challenges through those times, for sure.
Do you feel like a victim at all, or have you overcome that?
Yeah, not a victim. Uh, I like when people say that the aspects and challenges in their life really were part and parcel of what formed their character and personalities, and
Yes.
and I can really identify with that. I mean, like, um, who I am today is this collection and collaboration of all of these different, for better or for worse, different experiences in life, different challenges and different experiences. So I can really connect to that. I certainly don't feel like a victim. I think, there's some parts of my life that I've been a late bloomer and late to the party, and I find
Me
as an
too, by the way.
adult
Me too.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes that's a challenge. I mean, I sure I can get down on myself. I'm pretty good at that, like anyone else. But I don't feel like I'm a victim. I think even when I was a child, it felt like an adolescent. I think that I felt really different, and then later on, I realized a lot of people in high school felt different.
Yeah.
So, but I certainly felt misplaced and different, and so, but not a victim. Uh, Not a victim. And I think, especially in the last period of learning that I've had, I really, it's been really helpful too, in terms of having some different perspectives on life and why things happen, how they happen, when they happen, and the unknowns associated with that. I'm not the center of the universe. So
That's good, because I am.
yeah, okay, at least someone's got to be.
Are you a good guy?
Yeah,
You'd like
yeah,
to
I
tell?
am. I have a great heart. I'm a good person. I know that. I've got some of qualities of the people I love that help raise me that are, you know, really, yeah, I am. I'm a good person.
What qualities are you speaking of?
Well, like I said about my mom earlier, about being compassionate, caring, about kind and loving, nurturing. Um, there's a strong part of me that loves to help people. I'm a real helper.
Yeah.
I'm a giver and a helper. So I like to step in when someone's in need, when I can help, when I can contribute something positive to other people. Um, I'm a bit of a fix-it guy. I like fixing things,
Yeah.
understanding how things work, and so I put myself out there as being able to help other people in that way and other ways. Um, I really care about underdogs. I really care about, um, through, yeah, I guess not only university, but through my life, caring about social change, social justice, caring about, uh, being a support in a sense to other people's struggles and other people's growth. So, yeah.
I've often felt that Abraham and Sarah in the Bible
Mm,
had a tremendously strong drive to help others, to do good. A great example is when God came to visit Abraham after his Brit Milah, his circumcision,
mm,
and three strangers walked by, and Abraham said, "Excuse me, God, I need to tend to the needs of these strangers. We're walking through the hot desert."
right.
And I thought to myself, some people's drive to do good, to help others, is so powerful that they'll leave God. They'll walk away from God for the moment. Is your drive like that, to do good, to help?
Well, one is that I don't care to be the front of the parade. I don't care to be. Um, I don't care for, let's say, notoriety or for recognition even. I'm a bit of a worker bee, and I'm happy being in the wings a little bit. I don't need to be out front leading. I'll step into that, but that's not particularly my nature. Um, I think that I'm someone that will certainly sacrifice and sacrifice for other people. Um, and so, the what you shared, has some real nuance to it. But I think for me, um, this one of these ultimate pillars of doing right and caring for others and putting others well-being. I mean, I think I care for myself. I tend to myself, but I'm certainly find that I'm someone that will sacrifice for others, based on my values. Um,
We have a mutual friend, Dahlia, and she told me about you, and I was intrigued, and I thought there would be a good interview. There's a lot there. One of the things she told me was that after October 7th, that you would go outside at night, I believe, and take down anti-Semitic and anti-Israel posters. Is that indeed accurate?
yeah, there were a number of things that happened right away with October 7th and the massacre, um, and I would, yeah, and I still do. I still do remove um, Jew hate, graffiti, and posters and marks around the city. If I see someone post something about, something located I mean, even last night, I went out to a location at Young near Davisville. Someone had posted something. Someone had written something that was hateful. So yeah, over this time, I do go out and remove things, neutralize things that when I hear about them. Earlier on, I went out with a neighbor, a good friend, and we'd put up hostage posters along our streets, which was between Casa Loma and St. Clair, and we would put them up, and then they'd be taken down. And every day, we would put up more posters. I did that on my own eventually. And we'd put up more posters, they'd be taken down right away. And every day I was out there putting up posters until I was served a cease and desist by the city. A neighbor had identified me because of my car license plate, and the city told me I had to not put up any more posters or they were going to seriously fine me. And I looked for support and found that I was sort of on my own with that, and I chose not to put up any more posters. So the next day I ordered yellow ribbons, and I put up yellow ribbons on those same street posts, and since then I continue to put up ribbons once they come down, once they're taken down. So along St. Clair, along Spadina between Casa Loma and St. Clair, there's yellow ribbons. And there's other things I've done, that when October 7th happened, and here I am, a Jew in Toronto,
Yes.
Not religious, not observant. What do I do? What difference can I make? How can I help? Looking for small little things that I can do that for myself, but also something that might be for others in a small way. And so these are some of the things that have been meaningful to a point, and other things too. My windows at my apartment, I'm on the main floor apartment. You can see my windows from the street. And on October 7th, I put up my Hanukkah decorations. I have Jewish stars in my window. I have my menorah in the window. I have 2 Israeli flags. I have a count that says how many hostages. So it says 48 hostages today. And it says the number of days, which I believe is it 600 and no. Anyway, the number of days. So I have a count, and I change that every day. So, that's something that are just these small little things. I'll come out of my house, and either someone will react negatively in their way, or someone will react positively. A Jew or a non-Jew will look, and it will, somehow align with their position on what's happening in the world and with Israel and with us as Jews. And so, there's these small little things that I find I can do. I mean, I was downtown not long ago. Someone had posted about some hate graffiti, and I went to remove it, and I removed it, and I look up, and there's a PLO Hamas flag hanging on the second floor, and it had been hanging a long time because it was quite dirty.
Yes.
So I drove my car up beside the building. I got up on my car, and I tore the flag down.
Kol hakavod, man. Kol hakavod. Well done. Tell me something. Do you get frightened at all?
No. I don't get frightened. I'm not reckless, and I could feel unsafe, but not frightened. So Toronto to me doesn't feel like quite the place that I remember it. Doesn't actually feel safe, and I'm aware of that now. But it doesn't create a fear in me. To me, that's more circumstantial. If there was a situation that I found myself in, but I haven't found myself in that. Thank God. That hasn't been the escalation that I've experienced. I've experienced other forms of direct hatred and mischief and different things.
Are you surprised by yourself, or what you do? Does that make total sense?
Makes total
Your
sense.
perception of yourself. It does make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Now, doesn't mean other people in my life aren't concerned or aren't, don't give me other, they want to voice their concern or whatever. But no, it's in line with who I am, with my neshama, and with who I am as a person. The things I've done over my years. I mean, I've been involved in other social actions and social justice actions growing up and through university. Whether it had to do with South Africa and apartheid, and participating in justice for that set of situations, or whether it was others to do with actions in association with Native people in Canada, and being in a supportive role for justice and rights and justice for Native people. And so there've been quite a lot of things I've participated in, I've been invited to participate in, that I've been involved in relationship with other people. And to me, that's spoken to me my whole life.
What do you think about the world that God has created?
Well, I'm on this journey, which
Yes,
is
you are.
amazing.
Yes.
This journey of Yiddishkeit, this journey of Torah and mitzvot and learning through Torah observance and Judaism. And, the world is amazing.
Yes.
As an individual, as a man, I have this capacity to do amazing things, to be kind and compassionate. I have this capacity in me to be destructive and to be horrendous, to be malicious, to be destructive, and to me, I don't have to look to the world. I could just look to myself, that it's who I am. I'm here. I do feel as though I'm here. I've been brought here to find what is my purpose, to contribute to this world, to make it a better place, and to also work on myself, that I can be the best person I could be throughout. So the world, is as full of potential and possibility, full of the greatness and the joy and the beauty, just as it also too has this capacity for evil and for hatred and for destruction. So that's a big question.
Yes, it is.
It's a big question, and I feel I can feel very young, not only at heart, but young in terms of my awareness and consciousness and growth as well. And that's very humbling, being 59 tomorrow, and
Mazel tov.
thank you, and yet feeling as though I've only just begun.
Nice. I feel the same way. What was it like for you when you first put on tefillin?
So, I put on tefillin for the first time in Yerushalayim. I was there last September, October for 6 weeks. I went to learn. I wasn't introduced to tefillin prior to that. I never received tefillin for my bar mitzvah. I wasn't part of the exposure or the learning that I was brought to as a child or as a young adult. So it wasn't until I went to Israel this last year and I bought myself a pair of tefillin from Torah, and received a couple of lessons in terms of where to begin.
Yes.
And I found it's an amazing question. I haven't thought too much about it. It was really profound. Here I am in Israel, having a very profound experience, feeling very overwhelmed, full of uncertainty and unknown. It's even wondering, what am I up to?
Yeah.
And really out of my element in a way. And there I am, that along with other experiences, putting on tefillin for the first time. And I've put it on, and I carry it with me. I put it on ever since. And
Are you comfortable in it?
yeah, it feels like a very profound, deep connection. Tefillin as one of many things to family, to my grandparents, to family I never knew, to hundreds and thousands of years. I feel a warmth and a connection. I also feel as though I'm aware that I don't have a full understanding. I don't have a full capacity to really fully understand the meaning and the significance and the impact. And that's what the learning is. That's what my trajectory is that stepping into the right place, being with the right people, learning, continuing to grow, and the meaning, the understanding, the impacts will come over time. So putting it on was amazing because it was full of these uncertainties. At the same time, it felt like an amazing, deep connection, so that's been really special. Yeah.
What's your favorite mitzvah?
Right now, I think keeping Shabbos.
Yeah, keeping Shabbos. Why?
Keeping Shabbos. I'm Shomer Shabbos, so I keep Shabbos, and I have it now. It's similar to tefillin, you know. I know that I'm not, you know, for the right intention. I'm feeling good about it. I'm learning and growing, and that will. Yeah, it feels like there's so much to learn and experience, and anyway, keeping Shabbos, I think, is very special.
When Shabbos comes in, what's that like for you when it starts?
Well, I'm not alone. I'm with community. That's really important. I've spent a lot of time in my life feeling very alone, you know, and even when I'm with other people, feeling alone. So to be at shul and to be praying, to be singing, to be hugging and being with other Jews, and being in front of the Aron Kodesh, and to be, you know, it's very, it's amazing. It's amazing, and it's joyful, and it's like taking really deep breaths, and there's a bunch of breaths before they really start sinking in. So I think I also feel like I disconnect. If I don't disconnect, I unplug. So, you know, I observe at home, I unplug, and that's not normal today. I mean, people don't unplug. It takes a lot of effort to unplug, whatever, you know, that means. To connect deeply by disconnecting in other ways. And
do you have Shabbos clothes?
Pardon me?
Do you have Shabbos clothing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a suit.
With a tie? Do you wear a tie?
With a tie, I wear a suit and tie, and I'm clean. Yeah, I do have Shabbos clothes, and it's a beautiful time, and it's what to prepare for. It's what to embrace. It's what to yeah, and your question is really powerful too. You know, bringing in Shabbos.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't just happen. It is an active. It's a doing. I think that's something that came up for me when I started to learn and started to take these steps towards observance and Torah observance, was that I felt I've always been a strong identity as a Jew. I've always felt strongly as a Jew. I've always never questioned that or doubted that. I didn't have any religious experience, didn't have any real Torah experience. And so being a Jew is how I felt. It came to a point where I felt like just being wasn't enough, you know? And what I'm learning is that there are some significant steps and work that it takes to observe and to learn. And Shabbos is part of that. There's steps to take, and it's both spiritually as well as practically and physically. And So I'm, deeply embracing Shabbos.
I learn Daf Yomi every day, which is a page of Gemara, and I've been doing that for 5 years. I think we have a
Amazing.
couple of years left. I also
Yasher
learn
koach.
Chumash, and I teach on Thursday nights. I give a class. I'm not religious, by the way. My father was a rabbi. He was an Orthodox rabbi. So our boats kind of crossed in the dark of the night, but we have many similarities, and I absolutely adore learning Torah. I love it, and I grow through it, and I'm deeply, deeply proud of being a Jew. The more I learn Torah, what do you learn in Torah?
It's all ABC still, Aleph Bets.
Yeah,
It's still early, and I have a partner at the Kollel. We do learning once a week, actually, and that's it's prayer. The sitter, we're going through prayer,
do you have a
and
favorite prayer?
I don't know that I have a favorite prayer.
You like Modani?
Yeah, I do every morning, Modani. Like in bed before I get up, I say Modani, and yeah. So that's beautiful, very profound. I mean, what isn't profound? I mean, it's
Yes.
the
Right.
depth. I mean, and I am literally hardly even scratching the surface, but the depth is just amazing. Not to change subjects, but this past week's parsha, um, a friend I met through the shul, and his family are wonderful, very prominent, and he's a judge, and he did part of the parsha this week, this Shabbos, and he's a judge, and it just blew me away. Not only that did he do the parsha, because it was his bar mitzvah parsha. So, and it's about judges and the justice, and the process of judgment and judging. And anyway, I just, it blew me away, the depth associated with this friend doing the reciting this portion
Yes.
from his bar mitzvah as a judge in his professional life. Just the depth of that, and that resonates through his family too. It isn't just about him; it's his family, and it's just amazing. So the levels and layers and the intertwined nature of every aspect of Yiddishkeit is amazing. So I really look forward to learning. So I appreciate you asking. I mean, there's other learning I do on Thursday night. There's beer and cholent at the shul with the kollel. There's learning with one of the rabbis first, which is, and there's other classes to do with, Shabbos and the Parsha. And, it's, I'm taking steps.
You're inspiring as hell, Ken. You really are.
Mm.
I do a lot of interviews and discussions, and I teach at a conversion school. And I'm always so deeply inspired by those people who've decided to investigate Torah and Judaism more so, and develop their relationship with God. And they're always so just full of verve and full of effervescence. And I often say to people who are not involved in that, and this is not from a Frum place, because I'm not from. If you really want to understand Judaism, this is what you have to dive into. You got to study some Torah, because it's a gift. It's a treasure. Now with that, you're an artist. You're a sculptor,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So I want to show something you've sculpted here. And I want to ask you, what is the connection between this piece, maybe I'll show it for a bit longer, and God, or your relationship with God?
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there.
Good luck.
So people used to ask me before, let's say before I started learning, and before I became Frum, and before this journey really settled in, what inspired me? Where does it all come from? Okay, so I'm inspired by nature, no question. I still am inspired by nature, natural forms, shapes, forces, experiences, and then I would say it's very intuitive. In other words, I don't have a game plan. You know, I don't study, I don't research, I don't have an idea, and then I do have an idea, but I don't come at it as from research. So I used to say intuitive. So it felt like it sort of would come to me. Where it would come from, I didn't really know. Quite mysterious. I guess since I've been learning, I've felt as though intuitive, it has a place in who I am, but it no longer explains where it comes from. Because intuitive, I think, was my way of saying, I don't know. And there's more that I'm connecting to in different ways that plays a role in understanding who I am, where I've come from, why I'm here, and what it is that I do, in art being one of those things as a purpose. So one thing that came up not too long ago was, you know, part of this journey also was I heard a cousin of mine that's a rabbi in Passaic, who's been a big inspiration for me, him and his family, my family, as well as this friend of mine in Israel, who also has been a very big inspiration, and her family too. And I heard both of them talking about a neshama, and I don't ever remember hearing about a neshama. I mean, however crazy that might sound to someone else who knows what a neshama is, you know, but and so they both were talking, and I heard things that were landing in me that I didn't hear before, and that really stirred me up in a really beautiful way, had me want to take these steps forward. So when I look at a piece like you showed and other carvings that I've done and other works, I realize that my Jewishness has been in me all along. I just wasn't aware or conscious or connected to it. My Jewishness has been me. My neshama has been there all along. It's been like Hashem has been waiting for me. It's been there for me, but I just haven't known. I haven't connected. I remember one of the rabbis at Aish speaking about so much, but he was talking about relating, you know, Yiddishkeit and Hashem to the sun and to the rays of the sun that keep the rays, they shine, they burst continuously. They're unstoppable. They don't stop. The clouds hide them, the night sky. But one thing that was really powerful was that there's this sense of that it's continuous. I can be blocked, but it doesn't stop it. There, but maybe I'm unaware. So anyway, I've realized that the work that I've made all along has had my Jewishness in it. I just wasn't aware. So a piece like that, that you showed, which is quite, has a very linear, geometric aspect to it, and it has very subtle, curvaceous, organic elements to it. So it's this complement of linear, machined, square, as well as these internal spaces that are soft, opposed to the hardness of the hard line. Soft, smooth, curvaceous. It incorporates voids, empty spaces. Those empty spaces. Are those empty spaces, or are they defined by what's there, or is what's there defined by what's not there? And so when I look at those things, that relates to me a lot to some of the things that I'm learning around Torah, and my experience with myself. This idea of my neshama has been there all along. I mean, I've developed work as an artist, but I'm very strongly aware that I don't own that work. Those are not ideas that I've generated entirely of myself. You know, there's this desire in our world to be original, to be unique, to come up with the first, something desirable that other people value. And while that might be true, that I make beautiful things and people might want them for their spaces in their life, which is a beautiful thing, I have this feeling that what I make is so much greater and broader than just me. So I bring my flair, my energy, my neshama. I bring to it. I'm in it, but it isn't my identity, and it isn't solely, certainly not something that I own. I remember hearing, this is not about Torah necessarily, but I remember hearing someone speak about an idea, which is if there's a writer, and a writer has an idea for a story, and for some reason they put it on a back burner, and that story is in their mind, but they're not writing it. There's an idea that idea for a story has come to them from some other, it's arrived to them. And that if they don't, in fact, write that story, it will move on to someone else. Mm-hmm. So almost as though there's an aspect of the creative that is non-physical and is, I think it's godly and holy. So to me, that in part is part of my discovery of myself and my creative process through learning in Torah, which is that one is, I am not the center of the universe. This is not all about me. It's in part something I can bring, what I can bring to it, what I can help form and express, which is beautiful. Another interesting thing was that I put in a proposal for a sculptural, it was a competition in the city of Beverly Hills. They wanted an October 7th memorial sculpture in their city. So they put out a public call. I put in a proposal that I was very proud of. I did a proposal. Unfortunately, it wasn't selected, but the proposal was very powerful to do. And it was based on some of these wood sculptures I've done, like the one you showed and others. And it really came out of that. These are sculptures that I did prior to my learning, my Torah learning. These are sculptures that I did well prior to putting in this proposal. But it had everything to do with October 7th. Had everything to do with Torah, had everything to do with me being a Jew and expressing different ideas. And some of those ideas had to do with, I make sculptural objects that have some mass, that have some structure, that have some presence. And a lot of work that I do incorporate these voids. So where there's a mass and there's these areas that are cut out. I've removed wood, I've removed material. It's not there anymore. So the idea that there is this monolithic, maybe this large sculptural form or a series of these sculptures that are massive, that are solid, that are strong, that are determined, that are proud. At the same time, they have these voids. They have areas that have been torn and ripped out of them. They have areas that speak of loss, speak of trauma, speak of pain, speak of, just as there are communities in Israel and the October 7th massacre, so many that were murdered. These are neshamas, these are people torn from their families, their communities, their homes, their lives. At the same time, there's this sense of the neshama that is oneness with Hashem. This idea that can't be torn, the body can be torn. This sculpture, what it represents that I proposed and that these other sculptures show is that the negative space, the space that is empty, is even more powerful than the object and the material that is solid and remains there. It's a connection between the solid and the void. But for me, it's very powerful to feel as though this idea of an empty space and a void carrying, let's say, those neshamas, those individuals, that it's a representation of their being and their neshama. So anyway, I found that proposal, what it did is it showed me that there are things that I've made and I didn't understand the meaning and the connections
At that time.
to what it was.
Yes.
And it's as though the meaning found me later. I made it earlier, and then that meaning and that discovery and finding the impact and the significance of it was a process of learning and growing.
It's a fascinating concept. Ken, I want to show a couple of your pictures, what you've accomplished, what you've created, and I want to read something that you wrote about your art, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, sure.
Ken's work defies the rigidity of artistic labels and norms. Each piece, whether carved from wood, formed from clay or glass, cast in bronze or sculpted in stone, speaks not just of his mastery or material over material, but also of his dialogic relationship with it. To engage with one of Ken's creation is to engage in a conversation with the material world itself, a dialogue that transcends the tactile and moves into the realm of the spiritual. The spirituality evoked by Ken's art is not one of detachment, rather, it is deeply rooted in the living, breathing world. His artistry is nourished by the pulse of life that surrounds him, from the serenity of nature to the raw energy of human emotion. Each piece bears the stamp of his holistic life experience, serving as a dimensional narrative that invites us to reflect, engage, and ultimately to find peace of ourselves from within. How does that resonate with you when I read it?
It's yeah, it's beautiful to see the images, and it's there's so much subtlety. Um, it feels sort of poetic, but I think that's the creative process as well. There's something poetic about it. Um, uh, yeah, I think like I said, nature has always factored so huge for me in my life. Being doing so much sort of wilderness, remote canoe tripping, and nature. I just I've always loved being in nature, and in a way, I think earlier on, it felt as though that was more of a religious or spiritual experience.
Yes.
It's what I associated with more of a spiritual experience to do with God, for instance. And that's my love of nature hasn't changed, but my belief in where and how I relate to God and has like I went from not feeling as though I believed in God to believing in God. It's a profound shift in a way. Um, making work has been such a strong thing in my life, such a purpose, inspired by nature, and yeah, it's hard to put words, I guess, to it a little bit. I mean, what you said is beautiful. So
I often feel as though I have a relationship with a stick
mm,
or a blade of grass,
mhm,
or I can tear up when I see a giraffe's neck.
mhm.
I'm always mesmerized by the skunk's defense system. And I've said on my podcast before, I can imagine God sitting around with the angels and saying, let's create an animal small to the ground. There's a white stripe down the middle. and it has to have a defense system like every other animal and every other creation. And its defense system will be its stink.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. I'm serious about this,
Yeah.
And I think, my God, wow, I am created in your image. How special is that?
Yeah. So I totally relate to what you said as far as you and your experience, and so deep for you. I could hear it, I could feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, you share that. It's sort of not just a story. It's not just a, you know, it's really a deep thing. So I hang on every word because that's me. Smell the roses kind of guy. I'm a pod, seed, stone, rock, shell guy. Like I find the beauty of nature and the wonder is unbelievable. I could sit on a rocky shell beach for hours in one spot, just loving it. So I totally relate to. I noticed I was walking my dogs and something fell from a tree and hit the sidewalk and it made a thump. And I looked back, I went to look, and it was this amazing, I guess they call it a leaf bug. And I'd never seen one. And the body of the bug looks exactly like
Like
an
a leaf.
amazing leaf.
I've seen it.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I share your wonder in nature and this mystery of creation it's incredible, and that's deep in me as well. And in my work, there's no question. I mean, I've always I love in what I do. I find a simplicity. Like I don't work decoratively. I don't it's not mathematical as far as my calculations. I mean, I love the engineering and figuring out how to make things, to a certain quality and so on. But there's this sense I have in what I do that there is a clean, there's some simplicity, some beauty to some simple forms and to some subtle curves. The combination of a change of direction, some texture, some to me, all of these sorts of things definitely are inspired by observing and feeling a part of nature. I don't imitate, I don't make things to look like, even though they look like things, I don't make them that way. People can draw their own connections and conclusions to inspirations, but I find that my work isn't imitative, it's not representational, it's abstract. So in that too, I mean, I love that makes things a little more timeless and give people a little more opportunity to find their own meaning in what it is, rather than me having to just project my intention.
Would it be easier if you had hair to wear a kippah?
Yeah, I think so. I'd be able to clip it on and it would be easier. Yeah.
How do you like wearing a kippah?
So I've started to wear a kippah full time about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So for a longer period so far, I was putting the kippah on when I went into shul or when I was in Israel, but I wouldn't wear it around in the streets in the city or at home. Now I wear the kippah all the time. It's also a very powerful thing, to wear a kippah on different levels. From observance and a Torah perspective, it's very powerful to feel that connection, to feel as though there's this constant. In other words, it's not about switching the light on and off. It's like being, okay, I'm going to do, it's sort of part-timing it, like part-timing it. And I'm not judging anyone else. I think, yeah, it's also quite, I know that wearing a kippah and identifying outwardly as a Jew through different means, the kippah being one, or having Israeli flags in my window or on my car. These things. I am proud, and I choose to be visible and vocal. Driving around the streets of Toronto with a kippah and Israeli flags is pretty eye-opening right now, and it's really troubling. It doesn't cause me to feel any. Doesn't cause me to take my kippah off. It's the opposite. It strengthens my connection to God and to Torah and to the journey and the learning that I'm doing. But it is disturbing, the amount of hate that's out there.
At night, when you go to bed and you shut your light, do you take off your kippah and put it by your bedside?
Yeah,
And when you wake up in the morning, you put it on immediately?
yeah.
I've been playing around with AI for the last few months and asking it to compose a poem about my guests. So I now have for you Ode to Ken Gangbar. You ready?
Beautiful.
Yeah. By the way, you have a lovely smile.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, your whole face lights up. In the heart of wood, in the breath of clay, Ken Gangbar carves his soul's own way. Stone and bronze, glass that gleams, his hands weave truth from tactile dreams. No rigid labels bind his heart. No rigid labels bind his art. Each piece a pulse, a beating heart. A dialogue with Earth's own core, where spirit speaks and forms explore. Not aloof, his works alive, rooted deep where passions thrive. Nature's calm, emotions fire, fuel the forms that he inspires. Each curve, each line, a story told. A life expanse in textures bold. His sculptures call, they bid us see reflections of our own decree. No gallery's glare defines his name, yet souls are stirred within his flame. A catalyst, his art's embrace, ignites the heart, transforms the space. Surrender guides his steady hand, intuition spark where dreams expand. With skill and wonder, he creates an ethereal world that resonates. Ken Gangbar, artist, sage of form, in every piece, a soul reborn. Through wood, through stone, his truth is clear, a timeless voice we long to hear.
Beautiful. Amazing.
Do you see it's about you? Like, do you connect to that piece of poetry, or is it outside of you?
No, for sure I do. I mean, I could hear that. I could relate to it, connect to it.
So you have nachas in yourself. You have nachas.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a fairly modest person.
Yes.
I'm not strong to toot my own horn. I'm ambitious. This art is also a business. It's also a means to survive, as well as a creative expression and a purpose. I have to put myself out there, even if I'm modest, even if I like being a worker bee and not necessarily at the front of the line. I still have to put out proposals. I have to take a risk and hope that someone likes what I offer. And so, nonetheless, yeah, it's so I do connect, and I do feel, I also listen. They say, artists. Okay, I have my own challenges. With if I go a period of time and I haven't made work, I think, well, maybe I lost it. Like, oh, maybe where's maybe or if I don't land some work and it's been a long time, I think, oh, because so it's a very real thing. So I do look at what I do. Sometimes other people see it greater than I do. Some people see my life, or they see the work I do, and they could acknowledge some greatness or some value that I might minimize, which is true too sometimes. And maybe that comes because I'm a worker bee, and I don't toot my horn so much. But um, um, but I do get a lot out of what I do. I do look at it sometimes with some amazement. I could stand back and say, wow, I love that. And I love it not because of what it is, but the journey that it came to be, that which is in my control, in my hands, and beyond that, before that. You asked about tefillin. Well, I saw my father put on tefillin. I saw my grandfather put on tefillin. I saw other men put on tefillin. I knew that my family going back generations put on tefillin. Although I wasn't putting on tefillin until last year, it's a connection like that. So if I'm making something and I'm getting joy out of that, and it's real, it's not always joyful. Sometimes there's struggles. It's very real. Nonetheless, I think a part of what maybe didn't come through as strong in that passage that you read, that poem, was this connection to generations, to the Holy of Holies, to generations to come. Me as part of a trajectory, and part of a trajectory that has brought me here and that takes me forward and us forward. And so it's that. So I'm part of this whole that is absolutely incredible. I can feel that. I mean, okay, I still have to come in and figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow. Okay, what am I going to make? What's the next piece? But so it was a beautiful passage, and I did connect to that for sure.
It's very compelling that your relationship with your past is very powerful in terms of your father put on tefillin, your grandfather put on tefillin, and that real essence of who you are comes out when you speak like that. That being said, I've interviewed a number of converts, and I have to tell you, I adore converts. And I do, because their passion for Judaism is so incredibly powerful. Yet they don't have that generational component to it.
Right.
When somebody converts, Ken, as you know, they become the son or the daughter of Abraham or Sarah. So they don't have that, I guess, beauty that you have within your imagination, your thinking, looking back on your life, of seeing the generations before you do a similar mitzvah. They're in this brand new. Yet their relationship to Judaism is through the roof.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I want to conclude by saying that when you spoke about your mother, you used a word that people don't use very much. My son used it the other day in reference to a young woman that he knows. And the word is humble, or full of humility. And it always grabs me when I hear that word in reference to somebody, because I know humble and I know humility, not necessarily from me, but people whom I adore and people whom I respect greatly. They're quiet out there. They don't make a huge roar. They're not at the front of the march, as I think you used that metaphor before. And I think that if someone were to take something out of this interview that was important, I would say it's sort of the combination of your humility, yet your production, what you've been able to create, and now doing so through your neshama, through your soul, through your spirit. And I think that's so important as we forge ahead in life, to grab on to humility. Because to me, although humility is very quiet, and that creates problems for the world because evil is very loud, the truth of the matter is it's a very powerful quiet. And I think you've done that. I think you've created so many important things through your art, through your expressions, this interview in of itself. And so kol hakavod to you on the development of your life, the development of your product, what you do in the world. And God bless your mother's soul, who obviously created a good boy.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. So
Beautiful.
thank you so much for doing this. I'm very grateful.
Well, kol hakavod to you as well. This is a beautiful opportunity. It's great to connect. Ultimately, that's it. It's connecting. It's and
Yeah,
deeply. So
it
thanks
is.
for that. I appreciate it. And also,
Oh, absolutely.
to be able to share and reflect and grow through this as well. Thanks.
I'd like to hang out with you sometime
It'd be beautiful.
and do some art together.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I am very, very grateful. You can find this show on all social media outlets, YouTube, X, Spotify, Podbean, and the list goes on and on and on. I want to thank my producer, Paolo, who does an outstanding job, and our friend Dalia, who has helped me. We're just creating a new studio here, and she's very helpful. She's a design person and great at what she does. So until we meet again, as we say in Yiddish, sei gesund. Do you know Yiddish, Ken?
I know Zeigazint, but
You know sei gesund. That's a start, which means go in good health. And I thank everybody for being part of it. And I thank my guest today, Ken Gangbar, did an outstanding job. And it was just an honor to interview you. Thank you so much.
beautiful.